I want you to get together.
Millennial Kingdom is, to me, I've been saying it for, yeah, the past at least a year. This is the new flat Earth. Like the flat Earth was the biggest thing when it happened, and for like 2016, it was finally like the biggest thing on the internet, with the conspiracies. But so I spent my time doing that. But this to me is even bigger. This is the biggest conspiracy, and shout out and applause to you and Shelly. You know, I watched the videos recently that you guys did, and it was crazy because like my best friend Matt is one of the only people I've been able to talk a lot about this in the past like couple years, and it was like me and him talking. I was listening to you, and I felt like motivated to contact you. Another person in this type of field, Noel Hadley. I've reached out to him recently and talked to. So yeah, I'm definitely really into this. I just want to be a part of trying to share any information. Um, just like Flat Earth, I'll touch on real quick. I am someone who is against the circle dish that basically all Flat Earth is against. To me, it's discredited. I know for a fact that it can't be that because of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Dave Weiss and people just keep telling me that it's not real, but it is real. And besides that, it's also the patterns that the sun comes from. So, I'm my own thinker, and in all these different things, I like to just add something that maybe others aren't. So, like flat Earth, I think Dave's doing amazing work. He's getting so much out there for flat Earth, but I feel like the one thing he's missing is that model he's using. I feel that Eric Dubay and these guys are using that. Uh, and it's also because I feel that they're not Christians and taking the Bible uh, as serious as Christians and Bible believers do. And to me, the book of Enoch describes this, and it gives detail, and it talks about the sun and moon going through portals. So I've done a lot in the past couple of years with this guy Roman from Square Earth Cosmology. On my channel, I uploaded a video trying to give the best model and explanation on how it's actually a square and the sun and moon are going through portals. So that's something I'm a little different with, uh, so, but basically we agree on everything else, and I feel like that with you too, listening to you and Shelly. Um, I felt like maybe one of the things that I could add is I spent a lot of time with the Flamenco series and the books.
Hmm.
I'm also have them all on PDF, like 22 of them. I'd give to you and anybody else for free to share them and read them, so we could have more people digging into this stuff. But so much comes about the timeline deception, right? Which another great video and work you're doing, and Shelley. Um, and everybody just talks about the 1,000 years, right, Paul? 1,000 years was added in,
Yeah.
and that really comes from the flamenco works. Basically everybody's getting that information from the flamenco series, but I don't know how many people actually read the books over and over and stuff like I have. It's not so easy where it's just 1,000 years were added, boom, add that
No.
equation to everything, and it's going to work out fine. That's not how it works, so I think it's going to be really hard for like Noel Hadley and some people to try to like pinpoint. I know Hadley's going about the 541 or something like that, right? To 1,540 or something like that is the 1,000-year reign. The problem with this is, I just wanted to add to people, is it's not just a cut and dry 1,000 years. And what could be in one story 1492, that could also be the same as 1099 or 1066 in English history. And that could also be the same as 70 AD in Roman history.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that 70 AD was the fulfillment. Like I seen you and I thought Shelley did an amazing job talking about Nero and this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing job, Shelley. yeah, that's why I'm just like so excited to try to talk to people like you guys that are exploring this stuff and so smart and doing great research. Um, but yeah, I'm convinced that 70 AD was the moment. You figure Jesus 33 when he dies, you got 66 to 70 being like this revelation, the Armageddon, Nero being the Antichrist. It all lines up. And then the thing to me is I'm English history. I don't know why I'm just so drawn to the King Arthur, uh, Saint Brennan, so many stories with English history. But the famous one that everybody knows and we're told about is 1066,
Mm-hmm.
right? With the first Crusades, and clearly when you read about the Crusades, they're talking about they're going to get revenge on they call them the tormentors of Christ, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't make sense that 1,000 years later that happened, right? It would make sense that it was during this event when the Christians started smashing back, right? And all the nations started turning Christian. And it's clearly the same time, right? So, a lot of people pointed out the I and the J. I've seen you and a lot of people point that out with the coins and stuff. So instead of saying 1066, could we just say that's the year 66,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which goes with Josephus, right? And the whole thing with 66 AD to 70 AD. So, yeah, it's going to be hard. These these monks, these people that were really smart, uh, Fomenko and them, they call it Scaligerian history.
Yeah.
Basically, all the timelines have been created by this guy named Joseph Scaliger, a Jesuit priest. And, it's not just cut and dry. And they had to like create these phantom stories, these phantom popes and stuff to try to add in that extra 1,000 years and kind of like get these things to flow. But they're saying it's basically all happen at the same event. They also believe that Jesus was 1,000 years ago. That's something that I believe also, that Jesus was just 1,000 years ago, like you guys, and we're guessing that, right, that the Millennial Kingdom happened and we're at the short season after the 1,000 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense that Jesus was just a little over 1,000 years ago. Some of the other things I feel like I haven't heard you and anybody mentioning that I wanted to bring up, I thought maybe you'd find interesting in your audience, and this is in the Fomenko books too, is the Egyptian stuff, man. Like everybody thinks like, oh, even like the Killer Priest podcast and a lot of these guys, obsessed with ancient Kemet and Egypt.
Yeah.
They think it's like this whole religion of Horus and this and that. And Fomenko and them are straight out saying that that's all about Jesus. And they point out that like, even like you could see the pharaohs holding the Ankh. It's called an Ankh. It's the cross. It's the cross of Christianity. One of the things that I was stuck on for a while was the obelisk, right? Where we all think like Egyptian. We're told this is like, the phallus, right, of Osiris.
Mm-hmm.
So, you see an obelisk and we're just like, oh, here's these, these demons in charge, worshiping this Egyptian god stuff. But then I'm like going by cemeteries all over and you see obelisk everywhere and they got the cross on the top. And Fomenko and them are saying that these obelisks had crosses on the top and these are actually symbols of Christianity also. So yeah, I like that you and Shelly, I heard you guys like saying like, hey, maybe some of this stuff wasn't pagan. Maybe these were Christians and saints. That's where I'm at too. My first reaction at first was like, well, Christians wouldn't make this. Why would there be a gargoyle, right? Why would there be this beast looking thing? But then when you actually start looking into the Bible and some of the stuff, you start finding out that there are these creatures that aren't evil, right? That are actually like working for God. And they, a lot of Christians are going to be like, oh, false idols and this and that. But if the Millennial Kingdom happened and these saints and all these people that were beheaded. I mean, Peter nailed to the cross upside down. I mean, these people, why wouldn't you? If the whole world then turns Christian and you're starting up 1,000-year reign, why wouldn't you have stuff to the saints, right? Why wouldn't
Hmm.
there be a special thing for Saint Patrick and this saint and Saint Brennan? And we, I think, right away look at the Catholic Church now and we're like, they're evil. They're the evil running stuff. Um, but what if it wasn't? Like, what if, again, the beginning, it was righteous? It was about the saints and the Millennial Kingdom.
Hmm.
And these buildings that we're thinking, oh, maybe that's pagan stuff. These are false idols. Maybe this was for the saints, and these aren't, evil symbols. So yeah, I wanted to, add that part of the Egyptian stuff. I find really fascinating that Flamenco and them get into, saying that that's Christian. Um,
Interesting.
so yeah.
Yeah.
So I just talked a lot. I feel bad. Maybe let
Hey,
you talk.
hey, hey, you know what? I get accused of doing the same thing all the time, Vinny. Don't worry about it. I understand. Yeah, well, no,
I
fair.
just had so much I wanted to share that I felt like maybe you guys never heard.
No, of course. Well, let's unpack it all then. Let's go back to the beginning. So, you were talking at the start about your perspective on flat Earth. Now, me personally, I have never been 100% satisfied with the circle disc model either. I wouldn't even call
Uh-huh.
my I wouldn't even call myself a flat earther. I'm a biblical cosmologist. Do you know what I mean? I don't like to be associated.
Exactly. That's what it was for me. And it's so
Yeah.
funny. I heard you recently. There's so much alike us, man. I think you said you became a Christian about 10 years ago. Is that
Mar-
what I heard?
March
10, 11.
2014. 2014 in March. Yeah.
That was basically, that's the same thing for me, man. Like, I wasn't raised, going to church and believing. I was raised by an atheist father who thinks he's an evolved monkey on a spinning ball, still does.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's why we probably have a lot in common, and we like talking about this, and we're not stuck in this is what I was taught and what I have to believe in because I belong to this sect,
Exactly.
right? We're Christians. We're not part of, I don't call myself Catholic or anything, just Christian, just like you.
Yeah. I try to see. I like to think I'm a creative mind, and I'm not willing to kind of just settle for one particular faction in this varied group that we call Christianity today or Christendom. I think as a lot of people have a lot to offer in each one. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I I, I always felt more comfortable not going to these churches I mean, I don't. It might be different in America, but in British churches are weak. They aren't very strong, or they don't really know much. Do they?
Yeah, I
The
agree.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
same feeling I had.
yeah. They're basically like community centers for a quick Sunday meetup and a drink of coffee. You know what I mean? They're not actually there to think
Yeah,
about.
then run home to watch the football game.
Yeah, they're not really there to think about this type of thing. And this is the type of church I want. This is the type of back and forth I want to have with fellow Christians. You know, and I'm not a church leader. I'm not an expert. You know, I never claim to be an expert in much, to be honest. I just like to think about these things. You know,
Same.
and when this Millennial Kingdom topic came up, you know, I described it as I don't know the rules of engagement on how I should talk about these topics, and people have very quickly made clear to me that I broke the rules. As soon as I started talking about it, apparently this is a big no-no to say such a thing. To a lot of Christians out there, and I didn't realize this. I honestly, I was naive. I honestly thought like
That they would be open-minded and want to talk about it,
yeah,
right?
yeah, or they would already know, or they would already know about this concept, and they don't. Like a lot of
Yeah,
Christians do not know about the little season aspect. They actually just didn't have a clue, and that was shocking to me because, like I said, what am I? I'm not a church-going Christian. How am I? How can I know more than these people? This is wrong. Like this is it felt wrong, you know, and it's and sad as well at the same time. And yeah, like I said,
yeah,
in terms of the whole flat Earth thing going back, I mean, like I said, that was big in 2016. It kind of peaked then, didn't it? And that was kind of
yes, yes.
the summation of from like 2012 to 2016. That was the era of flat Earth on YouTube. And that
I
was
agree.
that was huge. You know, when I was there, I was like I said, I started the channel in 2014, but I started my research in 2011. So it's kind of I saw the whole thing, you know, and I took all the information in. I've got my flat Earth degree. I know all the arguments. I understand everything, you know, but I was never willing to just settle on this is the answer because I've been proven wrong about many things thousands of times when doing my research, and
Yep.
new information always comes to light. So what I've always tried to say to people online about it is, look, just take it as a possibility, but fundamentally, I wasn't there at creation. I don't know what the Earth actually is. I'm inclined to describe it as something incredibly psychedelic and complicated and not at all what we could even imagine. I think it's far beyond our comprehension to what our existence truly is from God's perspective, you know, and we can describe it as basically in a snow globe or floating on a ball
Uh-huh.
in space, whatever you want to do, you know, but I don't think any of the models are sufficient. What I do know, it's not what they've told us. Do you get what I mean? And that's as far as I can really go with it.
Yeah.
And the way you described it there, like it's actually like a square shape with portals on either side in which the moon and the sun travel through. It's kind of like Pac-Man style, isn't it? Disappear at one end, come out of the other end. And
Yes, and that's kind of like the term they like to throw to make it like it's a joke. Is like the Pac-Man term. It's like, like flat earther. It's like one of those terms to make fun of this.
hmm,
Um, but yeah, like you said, trying to have like a biblical model. The Book of Enoch, which again, most Christians right away started yelling at me. That's not biblical. It's not canon. And I'm like, well, actually, it was until the late 1800s when the Jesuits took it out. It was even in the King James Bible up until the late 1800s.
hmm,
So the Book of Enoch was in the Bible. I don't know why they're scared of it. But if you read the Book of Enoch, it gets into the model. And for years, like you said, I don't claim to know everything, we could discredit things and stuff and know what can't be, right? Like I know I'm not on a flying water ball or a water pear.
hmm,
Um, but so I avoided the question, for years about the circular dish. But then after a while, I just had to be honest. It's just something in us, right? We just want to know the truth. And I wanted it to be the Book of Enoch. And what hit me is when it started talking about the portals. So what happened is one day, like, for the people who go to work, which is I'm sure is the majority, right? You go to work or you get up like the same time every day, and you get in your car, you walk out your house, and you see the sun is in a certain place, right? It's rising in a certain spot in the sky,
hmm,
right? And what hit me is after a while, I would see like just one day it would jump dramatically in the sky, whether north or south,
hmm,
right? And then sometimes I would see like the moon jump dramatically where it was in front of the sun while it was the day before behind the sun,
hmm,
right? And I started seeing these large jumps, and I was like, wait a sec. If it's a circular dish or a ball, um, there would have to be somewhere where you would see the sun and the moon passing the sun. You would see the sun drifting, let's say, from 30 longitude to 40. But that doesn't happen anywhere.
hmm,
And that's when I was like, okay, so physical observation, I'm seeing the same thing that the person in China is seeing. The sun comes up in that part of the sky for them, and it's going to set in the same spot. The same thing I'm going to see here. But then the next day, that big jump happens. And it doesn't happen every day. The Book of Enoch goes into detail, like, maybe 12 weeks in this portal. And then after 12 weeks, it'll jump over to the next portal. And this is what I started seeing with my own eyes. And that was one of the first things. And then I started realizing, the 24-hour sun in Antarctica that Dave and everybody tells me is fake and that these videos are fake. Um, I don't need the videos. I mean, realizing that for them to, we all believed in a ball and we were all taught a ball. It's because there's a 24-hour sun also in Antarctica. They make it like it's a pole, just like the North, and they have it with the tilting, right? And the seasons. I mean, it has, just like we have the Northern Lights, there's Southern Lights.
hmm,
These are real. They're not make believe. And if they weren't real, then you never could have made anyone in the Southern Hemisphere believe they were on a ball ever.
Hmm.
And, these are some of the things that I can't, that I just know to be true, and I see it clearly, and I can't let it go. Obviously I don't want to fight with Dave or Eric or anyone. But tell them, you guys are wrong in my opinion. And the Book of Enoch is the model. It's going through portals. It's like the Matrix. I don't know. We're like in this little, you know, uh, squared off spot.
I want you to get together.